Hey guys, Sam Stein here again. I never leave. Managing editor of the Bulwark. I'm here with Will Saletan. Before we get started, as usual, please subscribe to our YouTube page. Always love to see the subscriber numbers go up. Will and I are going to be talking about kind of a weird late campaign development that's gotten our attention. RFK Jr., who left the Democratic Party and joined the Trump campaign shortly after the Democratic Convention, is increasingly playing a much more public, active role for Trump. And in return, is making it known that he's going to be playing a critical role. We don't know what the role will be for Trump if he's elected vis-a-vis health policy. So, Will, set up the situation for us, please.
So Kamala Harris has her Joe Biden problem. Like she has her message, and then Joe Biden comes out and messes with it, doing his own thing. Trump now has an RFK problem. So RFK was supposed to throw his support to Trump, pull out of certain states, and basically tell his supporters to back Donald Trump, and otherwise generally shut up. And instead, in the last week of the campaign, RFK Jr. has been coming out and saying, number one, he did an event where he said that Trump had promised him control of a bunch of federal health agencies, including HHS, which would control vaccines and a bunch of other things. And then number two, he's been saying some crazy stuff about fluoridation. And so basically this has required Trump to answer questions and other people in the Trump campaign to answer questions. Right. How much control is this guy going to have in a Trump administration about issues you weren't even worrying about until this week?
Right. And so Trump has not done the thing where you'd be like, don't worry about it. We're not talking about that stuff. We're not getting ahead of ourselves, which would be the normal thing to do. Instead, he's kind of embraced this idea that RFK is just going to run wild. I think the quote he said was go wild. But then he was talking with Tucker Carlson, another curious, questionable decision a couple days ago. And this is what he had to say about RFK Jr. playing a role in his White House.
He really wants to, with the pesticides and all the different things. I said he can do it. He can do anything he wants. He wants to look at the vaccines. He wants everything. I think it's great. The only thing I say to Bobby is leave the liquid gold under our feet alone. We want to have a little gasoline.
All right, so I just want to set this up. First of all, people need to understand this about RFK Jr.'s history. He started as an environmentalist. He was an environmentalist before he was kind of a healthcare conspiracist. He did a lot of environmental work in and around New York. He became an environmental crusader. That's where he kind of got his progressive reputation from. And then he started really dipping into the vaccine skepticism and conspiracy theories and so on and so forth. So it's kind of ironic that Trump is like, you know what, the stuff you're really known for and you're good at, we're not going to let you touch. But this other stuff, you can have at it. What do you make of this? And also, I guess, Will, like you've watched RFK Jr.'s rise in you've seen sort of on the broad strokes his just conspiracy theories. Just how radical would it be to give him a serious healthcare role?
Well, it would be totally very serious. It would be very serious in the sense that, and we can talk about this more as we go on. It's one thing to be skeptical of vaccines, which is going around the Republican Party. If you're in control of HHS, you can decide whether vaccines get approved or not. You can hire and fire people based on, FDA tries to set up independent boards and stuff so that this is not political. But RFK Jr. is out there talking about that he would possibly, he said that he might restrict remember, they have to get emergency authorization to do these vaccines, that he might have stopped that because they didn't prove to his satisfaction they caused more good than harm because he has some wacky ideas about the harm. So he can prevent you not just from having a vaccine mandated, but from you being able to get a vaccine. So that's obviously very serious. But can I pick up on this interview that Trump did for a minute with Carlson?
Yeah, of course.
So this is a really good portrait of what a Trump administration would be like. Carlson asked this question, and Trump's like, I don't know, man. You know, what did he say? Like the pesticides and, you know, all the different things. All the different things is not the way. That is not the way somebody who knows anything about science or health talks, right? It's like, well, that body's going to
It's the way someone who doesn't want to know and doesn't care about the stuff and has no interest in the stuff talks.
Totally. So that's Trump basically saying, you're not going to get my nuttery on health stuff. You're going to get Bobby Kennedy's nuttery. And what I love there too is you listen to the applause there, because this is what's happened to the Republican Party. Donald Trump did not start out as a vaccine quack. He's like takes great pride in Operation Warp Speed and the vaccine that came out. But he got the message, you know, interview with Candace Owens and some other situations. When you hear the applause, that is the base of the Republican Party saying we don't like vaccines, and Trump and Carlson and these other people moving in that direction.
Yeah, and that leads us perfectly into this next clip, because I think the alarming element is the degree to which people are just more or less adopting what was once a fringe viewpoint as a mainstream Republican viewpoint. And so Howard Lutnick, I just want to set this up. Howard Lutnick is the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald, massive finance firm. He's the co-chair of the Trump transition operation. By all standards, you look at him and say, this is a sort of serious cosmopolitan businessman, you know, obviously extremely wealthy, from New York City. You would not suspect that he would be a quack, right? Like, well, maybe he might be, but he's supposed to be one of the normal ones. He went on Caitlin Collins' show on CNN a couple days ago. And Mark Caputo has some reporting on this. This is kind of like an oddly set up interview. No one really knew why he was going on there. And then he did this.
Neither of us are doctors. Vaccines are safe. RFK, I mean,
Why do you think vaccines are safe? There's no product liability anymore. They're not proven.
Kids get them and they're fine.
Why do you think they're fine?
But because they're proven scientifically to be
How about
so.
this? There was 1 in 10,000 people with autism. We all know so many more people with autism than had it when we were young. Oh, come on.
Okay, 2 things. One is it's not true what he's saying. The relationship between vaccines and autism has been studied as much as basically anything scientifically has been studied in terms of these types of diseases, and it's been disproven time and time again. Also, secondarily, what was not in the clip is that Lutnick said basically, I had a 2.5-hour conversation with Bobby Kennedy, and it changed my mind. Like 2.5 hours was all it took. My mind has changed. And that is what is shocking to me, is that they've opened the door and they've become almost entranced with the guy. I don't know. It's like hard. It's like it casts a spell on them.
Right. Right. And what you're hearing in that Lutnick interview is the same thing you heard in the Trump interview, which is, hey, I'm not a doctor. I don't know. But I talked to this guy who has a strong point of view, which, as you point out, Sam, has failed to he has failed to accept, the same way Trump refuses to accept election results. Bobby Kennedy simply has refused to accept decades of research on vaccines and autism. He's just going to maintain this fringe view of his. And Lutnick and Trump don't really know. So they're like, Lutnick's like, hey, I'm totally impressed because I heard this and I don't know anything else. What you get the picture you get is that there are no adults in the room. There won't be. And you know, as you point out, Lutnick would be in another Republican administration, sort of a representative of sensible sort of, you know, business conservatism. But instead, he's going along with this quackery. And like when he says to Caitlin Collins, the vaccines, it's not proven that they're safe. I mean, literally every vaccine, the FDA, they run studies, and they don't move on this stuff until they have research, long-term research about the effects of the vaccines, good and bad. And there's sometimes bad effects for some people from vaccines, but it's a net proposition. And when he says they're not proven, that is so completely false. It's this, and he's using the anecdotal claim, there's more autism being diagnosed than there used to be. Therefore, we're going to pick something that happened, like all the vaccines, and blame them. That is just the worst kind of fake non-science.
Right. Now, this leads us to today, and we can close on this. But the reason I want to talk about this is that obviously everything is contingent upon Trump's election, right? If he doesn't get elected, this doesn't happen. But they're already making plans for Kennedy to have a role and for them to revamp public health. Yesterday, in a tweet, Kennedy wrote, quote, on January 20th, the Trump White House will advise all U.S. water systems to remove fluoride from public water. He says, I want to make America healthy again. And he added that Trump and Melania Trump have blessed this idea. Meanwhile, today, Donald Trump was asked about it. And he basically said, sure, sounds like fine idea. He also refused to rule out the idea of banning vaccines if he became president. Sort of classic Trump, avoidance of taking a position. I'll make a decision, is I think what he said. But in terms of the fluoride in the water stuff, he said, quote, sounds okay to me. So this is not, it is hypothetical because everything's contingent upon the election. But what surprised me a little bit about is how specific they've gotten prior to the election about their plans for this. It on the one hand, like, thank you. It's good to know what's coming. But on the other, it seems like almost like a weird strategic move to get this specific with these types of ideas.
Yeah, it's not normally a thing that you do on the Friday before the election, or was it like, let me throw in a new issue that might scare people.
Mix it up a little bit, yeah.
It's kind of, and like Kennedy didn't get the message from the previous comment. So you're now he's bringing up fluoride, which is like, anyway, people should go back, watch Dr. Strangelove, the movie. This anti-fluoridation is a long-standing right-wing quack theory. There's also, Kennedy's got his sort of left-wing version. This is the political horseshoe. And if they take fluoride out of the water, just so everybody understands, they're doing this based on extremely limited research about relatively high doses in a particular population of pregnant women in a single study. You never make public health decisions based on a sample of like 400, which was what this study. Decades of research on fluoridation. What's in what they put in water is a very, very low dose. It is and the point of it is for healthy teeth. So there are lots of kids, especially poor kids, who don't have other sources of fluoride, who would have serious dental issues. And it's like a 25% reduction, I believe, in dental harm and dental expense if your water is fluoridated. And so when they take the fluoride out, that's not just affecting a few people, that's affecting everybody, right? If you don't fluoridate the water supply, what are you going to do? You can have individual people putting fluoride in. That's way more dangerous.
Little drops.
Yeah, but like now you don't control the dosage. All kinds of crazy stuff can happen. So the collective fluoridation, which has been going on for a long time, is a much simpler, saner policy. And what Kennedy is proposing to do is basically endanger the dental health of millions and millions of Americans based on his quack science.
Well, it's a October, November surprise for us. Did not see this one coming, but here we are. All right, Will, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate it. And thank you for tuning in, watching this stuff. Only 2 more days to go, but I hope you stay with us even after that. We got a lot more coming. Again, subscribe to the Bulwark YouTube page and take care.